Think it's recording. Oh, me, you, wah, yeah, oh, wah, la, 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 pow, pam, param, param, pam, 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 param, param, pam. Hello. Subscribe to Intermix Hector YouTube. La 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 la. Pa 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 da pa pa. Beautiful you. You're beautiful. You're beautiful.
The Northern Territory was the first jurisdiction in the world to legalise voluntary assisted dying, but it was overturned by the Howard government not 2 years later in 1997. A quarter of a century on, Northern Territory Labor MP Luke Gosling and member for Canberra Alicia Payne have introduced a private member's bill to the lower house which would reverse the ban on territories considering legalising euthanasia. Government MPs will be given a conscience vote on the bill, with the Leader of the House, Tony Burke, this afternoon clearing the way for the bill to be brought on for debate, with a vote likely before the end of the next sitting. Member for Solomon Luke Gosling says territories should have the same right as states to debate the bill.
This bill does not legislate voluntary assisted dying. It is about democratic equality and fairness. For too long, Australians living in the territories have been treated as second-class citizens when it comes to legislating on matters that impact their own lives.
Well, Marshall Perron was the Northern Territory's Chief Minister when the euthanasia bill was briefly legalised back in 1995. He's since been campaigning for the return of territory rights. Welcome to you, Marshall. There's been some 18 bills since 2004 to attempt to restore the right for territories to debate voluntary assisted dying. What makes this one different?
Yeah, hi, Andy. Actually, it's 13 bills by my count, but they've been continuously before either the Senate or the lower house of federal parliament for the last 18 years. So we've had 5 prime ministers who have sat there resisting all attempts to try and get this matter debated. And it wasn't until Anthony Albanese came along that we finally got the breakthrough. So, yeah, a little bit of elation at the present time. Sorry, you're right.
So, yeah, well, how does it feel after that 25 years? I believe only 4 people availed themselves.
We are having witnesses questioned on every aspect of this issue, and they have all concluded at the end of the day that you can have voluntary assisted dying safely. And so those arguments have been taken away from against the case in the Territories situation, and there is actually no case anymore for the Territory not to have its own powers returned. I mean, it's absurd when you consider that this is discrimination on the grounds of geography alone. The fact that someone in New South Wales, outback New South Wales, could move 3 kilometres and start to live in the ACT, and they've suddenly lost some of their democratic rights. I mean, it's as simple as that, and it's as absurd as that it should continue.
Yeah, absurd really is the word, isn't it? I mean, there is support certainly there, and it seems like the arguments have been borne out as you've described at the state level, and government MPs will be given a conscience vote. There have been relatively few outspoken in support of the private members' bill. Do you believe there is enough support?
Well, I have to say I don't know. I haven't been able to count numbers individually. Other people are trying to do that who are advocates for our cause, I'm pleased to say. But we can only let the debate ensure and proceed and lobby politicians as best we can. But the issue is we've got 218 federal politicians who have not been elected by Territorians in the ACT or the NT who are going to decide on this issue. And, you know, it's just a time for this democratic inequality to end. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, of course, logically it doesn't. But in terms of the passage of this private member's bill, and I note not a government bill, does that indicate the support may not be at the level it needs to pass? I mean, the Prime Minister himself supports it, but it's still a private member's bill, not a government bill.
It is, and one could argue it should be a private member's bill, considering that the first bill that this one seeks to overturn, that is the Euthanasia Laws Act, or the Andrews Act, it was a private member's bill with a conscience vote as well. So I guess it's fair that they both have the same standing, but I don't mind the fact that it's a conscience vote. It gives the parties a complete free hand not to exercise any political influence on the issue. It should be decided on its merits, and I believe it will be on this occasion, because there's a much better understanding of the legislation and what it does today, simple as it is, simply returning powers to the territory and putting them on an equal footing in this regard as the states. Because back in the 1997 debate on the Andrews Bill, the level of ignorance, which is recorded in Hansard of many of the members who voted against the Northern Territory, was just extraordinary.
Was that somewhat deliberate, though? A deliberate naivety to argue the point from a moral perspective, not a logical one?
Well, I think it was. It was a religiously based movement that was behind it all, and all of those who voted against it were voting because they opposed voluntary assisted dying. But the fact is they hadn't read the Northern Territory legislation. The claims made about how it would allow, an example was an 18-year-old who had a row with his girlfriend to go to his doctor and be euthanised. You know, these sort of things that you would hardly imagine could be spoken by an intelligent person. But these were claims, and there are many of them in Hansard, by members who opposed what the Northern Territory had done. And they were going to vote it down no matter what the arguments were in support of the case, and no matter how tight the Northern Territory's legislation was. And in some respects, it had some of the safeguards were tighter than those in the 6 Australian states, and some weren't. But there you go.
On RN Drive, former Northern Territory Chief Minister Marshall Perron is here. We're discussing a private member's bill to give territories the right to debate voluntary euthanasia. And I suppose that's an important point to make, Marshall, that this bill does not legalise voluntary assisted dying in territories, but rather pave the way for that discussion to be had. To what degree is the focus on assisted dying making it harder to win support for restoring territory rights?
Well, just listening to the debate today in the lower house, there was, I think, half a dozen or maybe a couple more members. I caught most of them. But those who opposed the legislation did so on the basis that they opposed voluntary assisted dying. And, of course, they're not talking to the principle in the bill in that respect. But I guess they have the right to take their stance based on any issue they like. But the fact is that voluntary assisted dying in Australia today has the support of 85% of the Australian population, and that's by repeated polls by various organisations over the last half decade. And the figures are very consistent and they're very real, and I'm sure the federal politicians know it. However, the downside to this is, as I just said, 218 of them who are going to vote are not elected or responsible to Territorians, the ACT or the NT. And that's really what the principle we're talking about. Those who decide this issue should be responsible to the electorate that is affected by the result.
And not only that, the Senate is seen as a bit more of a challenge in terms of legislative pathways for this government. I mean, are you confident the support is there in the Senate if it made it that far?
Well, I would never be overconfident, and I'm hoping there are enough senators to get it through. The Senate, of course, is supposedly the state's house. It's the house that supposedly looks after the little guys from being bullied by the big guys. Yet the Senate has failed us on at least 2 occasions, firstly in passing the Andrews Bill. And, of course, it only passed there by, I think it was 3 or 4 votes in the Senate. And then when David Leyonhjelm's bill came up in 2018 to return these powers to the states, to the territories, that was the last one that got voted on, and we lost that by 2 votes in the Senate. So hopefully this time there's been a significant change in the composition of the Senate, and a lot of people are more aware of the issues. As you say, the 6 states now have voluntary assisted dying. 2 of those 6 states have it operational. Victoria and Western Australia, the others coming online very soon. There simply is no grounds for the territory parliaments to be denied the right to discuss this issue and decide whether or not their constituents will have the access to voluntary assisted dying. There is simply no case against it other than a religious one or a very much biased anti-VAD stance.
Just lastly, how soon do you believe we could see debate about voluntary assisted dying in the ACT and the NT if the bill gets up? I mean, how ready to go are those jurisdictions?
Well, I'm not completely au fait with the internal workings of both. However, I believe that the ACT, there are some indications that it is more advanced on considering what sort of bill they would have. This is internally, in a bureaucratic sense, what sort of bill they would have if they get the powers back, whereas I'm not sure that the Northern Territory has started down that path as yet. So I guess the answer to your question is unknown, but there is a lot of support amongst the community in both places, I can absolutely assure you of that, to get on with the job as soon as the powers are returned.
Marshall Perron is the former Chief Minister of the Northern Territory. Great to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, Andy. Bye-bye. On
the text line 0418 226 576, this text kind of sums up what he was referring to in terms of that broad-based support for VAD or voluntary assisted dying. Bring it on for everyone in Australia who needs it, that text says. Appreciate that one.
Find more great ABC.
Okay. I consider that they should keep Northern Territory, where they've got mining and things that's going on there, to be independent and just give it to the Aborigines. It would be sad, would be very, very sad if we don't support our native writing, language, and we lose that, and people don't see the other side or don't know about what is Australia. Constitution, rules and allegations. It's just, and it's really, really silly, my friend. Okay, I don't know much, but I would like to have Northern Territory, Australia, to be independent and just have a country called, a place for the Aborigines. Tourism, especially people who like the adventure and all that. Australia's got that, and it's got more than that. Now. Next episode, please. Blah, blah, blah. My friend. I love you.
She's one of the world's best-selling artists, and while Beyoncé's latest album, Renaissance, is being hailed as a critically acclaimed piece of work, she's drawn criticism from fans and disability advocates over the use of an ableist slur. The singer repeatedly uses a word considered a derogatory reference to a medical term, spastic diplegia, a form of cerebral palsy. It's the same word that landed fellow pop star Lizzo in hot water just weeks ago. Both singers are now changing their lyrics. Disability advocate and writer Hannah Divany was one of the first to call Lizzo out last month, with her comments online going viral right around the world. She's since called out Beyoncé, penning an important piece in The Guardian, which I urge you all to read. And she joins me now. Hannah Divany, welcome to RM Breakfast.
Hi, thank you for having me, Patricia. I really appreciate it.
Take us back 6 weeks ago when you first came across the lyric by Lizzo. What did you think?
Well, I first heard about it on Twitter because some of my friends and fellow disability advocates were expressing their disappointment and confusion. I think it's also because Lizzo cultivates such a space of body positivity and intersectionality and acceptance. We couldn't quite work out how this slur had got past her notice.
Yeah, and now changing a Lizzo lyric is one thing, right? But getting Beyoncé to do it is another. Were you surprised to hear she was open to changing her lyrics?
Absolutely, I was. I think Lizzo cultivates this very accessible and approachable sort of image, whereas Beyonce, through decades of hard work and also in like the need for protecting her private life, has created this sort of enigmatic, untouchable, very mysterious sort of persona. So for her to want to change the lyric is incredible, and I'm just so grateful to both of them for their allyship.
Some people might dismiss this as trivial. You're someone living with cerebral palsy. Why does our language matter?
I mean, I think language always matters, and I think in this context, like I know that you obviously won't want to say the slur, but I probably can for anyone who doesn't know. So the slur they used was the word spaz, short for spastic, which, as you mentioned, refers to my specific form of cerebral palsy, and instead means like a constant and unending tightness in my legs and my whole body, really, that is painful, makes my life difficult, and tends to flare up in the colder months. It also ends up obviously being colloquially characterized as like an emotional meltdown or a lack of control, maybe even a lack of intelligence. So having those insinuations tied to something that I live with and having that word be weaponized as an insult against me when I was a kid or against other people that I care about is why I care so much about language. And I think words really do matter because we know that like they're the kind of one weapon in the world, I guess, that most people have easy access to. And I think we know the power of using them for good. I can see that every day in the work I do as a disability advocate and as a writer. And I think for people who call this trivial, I want them to consider that if we start at the small scale stuff, then hopefully that gives us a way into the bigger, more structural conversations around the inequalities that disabled people face.
The word you refer to, and you're right, I'm not going to say it, but that word is something that growing up was a common word that you heard. In recent years, I would never think to ever use it. Yeah, I'm sure I have as a young girl because it was so used and not taught to us as a slur. Were you surprised then that it was in this song? Well, I was. I was surprised because I think it's pretty well understood that it's a slur.
So I think what I'm learning based on the kind of dumpster fire that is my Twitter mentions at the moment is that there is a kind of cultural disconnect in terms of the way Americans perceive this to be a slur. I think in the context of Beyonce, I was more surprised because obviously we had the Lizzo situation play out almost identically only 6 weeks ago, and I couldn't really work out how no one in her team had flagged this as a lyric that they were going to run into problems with and have the same issues play out.
Your opinions on this have gone viral globally. You've been interviewed across the US and Europe. What have you learned from these discussions and the bin fire that's your Twitter mentions? Are people receptive?
Yeah, I think for the most part, people just want to learn, and I've had some like wonderful messages from people who have said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was a slur. Like I have used it, but now I get it, and I'll make sure to kind of edit it out of my vocabulary." And I think that's a really good, a really great way to learn. And I think the centering of disabled voices and the centering of disabled issues is only ever going to be a good thing. So if this leads people to learn more about what I and so many others experience as disabled people, then it's all worth it, really.
Are there other problematic words or phrases you hear often in music or even more broadly just in speech, people talking to each other, that you think we should be having similar conversations about?
I mean, I obviously can't speak to all of them, but I think one that still unfortunately persists quite a lot is the R word, and I'm not going to say
you
that.
You do still occasionally hear that one, that's true.
On radio, but I think that most people will know what I'm talking about there. And yeah, just sort of, I guess it comes from a lack of representation of people with disabilities and a lack of visibility. I feel like these conversations would be a lot easier if disabled people were seen in more kind of public arenas and in every public arena, not just in sport every 4 years or so.
Hannah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Patricia. I really appreciate it.
Hannah Duvernay is an Australian disability advocate and writer who's led the successful public push to get Lizzo and Beyonce to change their lyrics.
ABCRN helps you understand the world. Find more of our stories on the ABC Listen app.
Okay, RN, RN is an Australian podcast, but there is an RN radio, which you can get on the ABC app. But you don't have to get the ABC app or something. But you can. Look, I can't show you, I can't do that now. But in the future, maybe a month, 2 months, whenever, I'll show you all the radios, which one is better, how it works. I've got it now on Google Podcast, right? And I do a lot of these things, but I have to quickly now go to the next one to finish it off. This next one might go for an hour or something, I don't know. I wanted to see why, because I wanted to see about the soccer, the football, right? But anyway, this is podcast, right? Very nicely. Sometimes I like to use the F word, crazy, nuts. My mind doesn't really appreciate something. I don't know. Anyway. Well, let's just forget about it. Let's go to the next podcast, which is Transfer Talk Sky Sport. Okay. Transfer Talk Sky Sport. Okay. I have to. We'll miss something because I can't be bothered listening to the whole lot. It goes for, I don't know, an hour and a half or something. I don't know. Okay, anyway, we're going there. And I'd just like to say, it's an award-winning. This is champion to the champion. So you live in Europe, you live in Asia, you live in South America, Central America, all around the world. Family get married, they eat good food, they understand, they believe on you. You want a sexy man, you want crazy man, you want this lady. I understand that. I am shy. I am very, very shy. I am so shy. Hopefully you understand and where I'm coming from. I live in Australia. I'm Chilean. I'm here for you. I love you. Now, let's go to the next episode, please. Thank you. I love you too.
And it's probably something that has been overdue at West Ham.
Okay. Every time I listen to the transfer talk or the soccer or the football, they love England, EPL, right? I don't understand why EPL has to be, or English Premier League has to be number one. They pay so much money over there. It's money. So people might say, if you hated it, what did you record it for? And plus you missed some of it anyway, idiot. I'm going, wow, calm down. I am not perfect. You can't be like me. I am different. This is my show. I do what I want to do and how I want. No, you argue that European pay a lot of money to football players, soccer, whatever you call it over there in Australia. Calm down. Who cares, right? You want us Chilean, you want us Australian Socceroos over there in Europe. You can only get the best. That's why you want the best, and then kill them. Lucky that Messi and others can still play good football, mate, because some of the others cannot play good football now. They're getting old and they're not running as fast. They're getting old and they're not performing. They're getting old and they're stupid. They're getting old and stuff. Chile, Argentina, Peru, Australia, New Zealand, we cannot be like you. We are second class. And if we are lucky, we hate the money business. The money. Get out of it with this money shit, man. Fuck the money. Adios. Que la puta pa... You Europeans love money. Why don't you tell these people that only this amount is 200 million, 300 million? How much do you think a player can get, right? You're show off, Europe. You're very show off, mate. Do that again. Try to take out players and play in your team when the World Cup comes. You Europe need to understand that you will be in the finals. It's always Europe in the final. Some European team goes to the final. Always, 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 always. Never let the little teams come first, motherfucker. The little team like Fiji, Canada, Mexico, Chile never come first, because you Europeans are paying a lot of money for your players to play extra hard. Okay, got it? And so you think we're not playing extra hard over here? You think Australia, Philippines, Vietnam, Chile, Peru, Canada not playing extra hard? You are full of it. You are full of it. We are beautiful football players. We are good soccers. We are good. But you want to take us over there to make us famous. Is that what you want? Here goes the recording that I'm doing now for the transfer talk. It's on the Sky News. Anyway, don't blame me and don't think I'm ugly or stupid. Please, calm down. This is the talk, and here we go. Hopefully it does all right anyway.
Gab just kind of touched on it there. He mentioned the fact that West Ham would...
Transfer Talk podcast. And look, if the hierarchy at Manchester United are listening, look, we did it. It's still possible. De Jong could yet join Manchester United. And we're very happy that Gab decided, yes, I'm going to come back. So, and we'll have him talking even more after the break, because coming up after the break, we'll be discussing West Ham United after they finally secure the signing of Gianluca Scamacca. Is that how you pronounce it, by the way, first of all, Gab?
Scamacca, yeah, you're doing great. There's no weird accents, there's no weird pronunciations. You can do it phonetically, Scamaka, if that makes it easier for you.
Much easier. I've been calling
it. Not
a
difficult name to pronounce, I think.
Gianluca Scamacca. But will the spending stop there? That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. For the very latest news in this window, go to skysports.com and the Sky Sports app, where you'll find our live transfer blog detailing all the deals as they happen. Okay, after a long wait, West Ham United have finally signed a striker. Italy striker Gianluca Scamacca has joined from Sassuolo and will provide manager David Moyes with another attacking option. Just a quick breakdown of that deal: £30.5 million initial fee plus add-ons. And this will be music to West Ham United fans' ears, because PSG came in with a late bid for Scamacca, but we're told that Scamacca and his representatives had given West Ham their word that he would be going to the London Stadium. There was also interest, we think, from both Milan clubs and Borussia Dortmund, as well as two unnamed Premier League clubs. But West Ham is his new home. Gab, you'll know all about Gianluca Scamacca. Should West Ham fans be excited about this one?
So I'll give you the brief capsule on Scamacca. As you've obviously seen, he's a big boy. He's got good feet. I mean, some people get compared to Ibrahimovic. That's way premature. He's not Ibrahimovic. He's not Van Basten, but he is a technically gifted player who has that size and strength as well. From a young kid, he was a phenom, because, and you see this in youth football sometimes, like the kid who's like taller and bigger than everybody else and is also more skillful. And then you wonder if, is he actually, 19 years old playing in the U12s? But no, Scamacca is legitimately the age that he is. There were question marks about him and about the sort of his temperament, his agents at the time, his family, because this is a guy who spent 3 years in Lazio's academy, and then he spent 3 years in Roma's academy. I might have that backwards, but that's not a good look in any country when you go from one arch rival to the other. Then he fell out with some people, and then he ended up going to he played in Holland for PEC Zwolle when he was very young. And there was a sense, talking to some people, that said, well, this guy, he may be skillful, but his head needs sorting out. What we saw last season and the year before, to be fair, is that it looks like his head is sorted out. He's been professional. He's been disciplined. He's been called up to the national team. He's done everything right. As you know, Italy crying out for a center forward who can score goals at international level. If we had one, we'd be in the World Cup, or Jorginho converted his penalties. It looks like he's turned the corner, and it happens with young players, especially young players who are kind of feted and hailed at a very, very young age, the way he was. Sometimes they lose themselves a little bit, and sometimes they come back. So if he's back to where they want him to be, West Ham have gotten themselves, I think, a center forward that ticks all the boxes. I think that's the big question. I think for Moyes, it's just gives you a major alternative, a different way of playing should you need it. Really haven't had that kind of forward since the great Sebastian Haller experiment.
Sam, you've been on this very podcast, and you said Armando Broja is the player that West Ham should have gone for and not Scamacca. But Scamacca's now signed. So what do West Ham need to do to bring the best out of Scamacca? Is this when you deny everything?
No, of course not. I mean, Gab just kind of touched on it there. He mentioned the fact that West Ham would need to adapt to him somewhat and that he would give them a different way of playing. And it's probably something that has been overdue at West Ham. They have sort of tried to play the same way or with the same type of forward for 2 or 3 years now. And eventually you are going to have to refresh how you do things. What really scares me is that they signed Sebastian Haller, presumably to diversify up front, and then just didn't adapt to him whatsoever. And he ended up leaving for half the price they paid for him. And they've ended up looking a bit silly because, he's gone on and achieved great things because he's a great player. So in my head, I have a really clear picture of the type of striker that David Moyes can get the best out of. And it looks like Mikel Antonio. It looks like Marko Arnautovic. It looks like Jared Bowen on occasion, and it definitely looks like Armando Broja in the way he plays. But it doesn't look like Scamacca. And what scares me is that while I know that Scamacca is an excellent player, and I do appreciate him, West Ham didn't adapt to Haller, and he cost 40 million. So there's pretty much no guarantee here that the same thing happens, or the same thing can't happen again. And we know that no player is good enough to overcome a bad tactical match. Lukaku and Tuchel have just emphasised that and capitalised the T's and dotted the I's on it. So that's where I'm a little bit worried. I do really like Scamacca, but if they send him running into the channels 30 times a game, I'm going to be really annoyed because that's not him and it's not fair.
You made a great point on Arnautovic. I think maybe in some ways the similarity is he's more of an Arnautovic type than an Haller type, even though he's got the size, because he has that unpredictability. Equally, though, if you're an analytics type, this is a person who, his goals last season, he outperformed expected goals. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some people who do that throughout their career because, their names are Lionel and Cristiano. Most footballers do not outperform XG the way he did last season. So depends how much weight you want to give to this thing. But some people look at it and say, okay, fine. But, he overachieved last year. That's not really his level. That said, his skills, his height, his strength, and his touch, these are obvious, tangible things that pass the eye test as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, a little bit of overperformance is usually pretty healthy, but I think I'm right in saying, Gab, it was somewhere between like 5 and 6 in terms of goals overperformance, which for someone stepping onto this, it is a lot. It is a lot. So you do have to look at the other stuff. I love him as a player. Like you say, it's too much to compare him to Ibrahimovic, but take ability out of it and just look at that mix of size and suppleness and athleticism and acrobatic nature. It's mad. He's mad, and I do see a lot of that in him, and it's really interesting. I think he's borderline unique as a forward. So this is a very special player. My concerns really are more on David Moyes and his willingness to sort of meet him halfway than anything else. If he wants to play him maybe they want to play him in a front two. Maybe that's what, when under 20 World Cup, him and Pinamonti, Sassuolo, it's been a good partnership there too. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. That has knock-on effects. It's very interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I think West Ham fans are also dreaming now of a Filip Kostic assist and a Gianluca Scamacca goal because they're in talks with Eintracht Frankfurt over Philip Kostic. And significantly, Kostic has the same agent as Scamacca. So they're trying to broker that deal. Look, he's 29 years old. He is, on the one side, guaranteed Champions League football next season. He's already turned down 2 offers from Champions League clubs. West Ham made an offer of around 15 million euros all in. We think Frankfurt want around 20 million euros. But Sam, I've been looking at the stats, and since August 2018, this blew my mind, I've got to say. Only Thomas Muller and Lionel Messi have more assists than Philip Kostic.
Yeah.
West Ham have got to pull out all the stops and sign this guy, don't they?
I think so, yeah. No matter where you hold him in your esteem, he's in the top tier. And that is basically the source of those assists. Getting to play as a wing-back for Eintracht, he was converted from a winger, I think. And he's actually surprisingly quick. When he gets a shift on and runs into space, I'm almost always floored by how quick actually he is across the turf as well. He's definitely someone I had associated as a out your feet and cross it quickly, but he can cover the ground too. And he's been fantastic for Eintracht for a long, long time. I guess if you're pairing him up with Scamacca and then Souček and then Declan Rice and sling a couple of centre-backs in there, Aged, when he comes back from injury, he's a set-piece monster. And of course, the others are very, very strong in this area too. You can see him continuing to rack up these assists, I guess. My question would be, are you going to a back 3? Do you want to play him as a wing-back, or are you going to move him into a wing role? I'm very interested to see what the actual plan is there, because it has the knock-on effects on the likes of Scamacca, on the likes of Bowen, on the likes of Antonio.
Yeah, still work to do to get that one over the line for West Ham. They were also interested and were in talks with Napoli over Peter Zielinski, the Polish international midfielder. Looks increasingly likely that he'll be staying at Napoli. But look, make no mistake about it, West Ham are really going for it in this transfer window. So just to end this section, guys, and just a question for both of you. What would be seen as a successful season for West Ham United? They've had a 7th place finish and a 6th place finish in the last 2 seasons. What would be good this time around? Gab, let's go with you first.
West Ham fans can't complain about investment in the team, right? We know that for sure. They built something. You expect to knock on, and you would say, all right, well, let's do even better next year. The problem is the competition. Next level would be Champions League, right? But then you figure 2 of those spots are already filled, because obviously Liverpool and City aren't in another dimension. But then, you're competing against Chelsea, Arsenal. Chelsea obviously finished 3rd last season. Arsenal and Spurs, who've spent a lot of money in the summer and who look to be stronger. And you have United. Are you going to have to settle just for the Premier League's best of the rest trophy? I'll probably get in trouble for reminding people of this, because it's not something that Premier League cheerleaders necessarily always want to hear. But if you remember the year that Everton finished 4th, which was the year of Istanbul when Liverpool won the Champions League, since then, it's been 18 years, right? Since then, only one outside the so-called Big Six has finished in the top 4, and that's Leicester when they won the Premier League. That tells you just how monumental the gap is, and how difficult it is when anybody outside the Big Six, just resources, finishes 5th or 6th, let alone get into the top 4. It's just so difficult. And I think we have to recognize that West Ham don't need to do that for it to be a successful season.
Yes, I think even back then, it wasn't even a top 6, was it? It was still a top 4 or a big 4, because this was pre-City takeover. And it was before Tottenham elbowed their way into the conversation and did very well to just kind of basically tread water. I mean, what they've actually managed to do in terms of breaking in is absolutely tremendous. So, yeah, I mean, it's just getting even harder, because there are only 4 spots for the Champions League, and now there are 6 viable candidates every single year, rather than, could Everton nick one off Arsenal, which was what happened, or didn't in the end. I'm with you, Gab, and I look even further down the table. I look at this top 10, basically, and I'm looking at Leicester, who were bad last season and haven't signed any players. So, yeah, there's that to consider. But they have no midweek football, and that obviously clears up a schedule quite nicely. You look at the rising spectre of Newcastle United, and I think Aston Villa are looking really strong, and they've signed some really good players. Then you chuck in West Ham. That's your top 10. Whatever order you've got them in, and it's up to you. For me, that's probably the top 10. And if West Ham head on this wonderful journey again in Europe and get past February and they're still in the Conference League, I think anywhere in that top 10 is fine if you've got a European journey. If they're out of the Conference League by December or February, maybe you have to go ahead and nail 7th again. So it does sort of depend on where they end up on the continent.
It's funny because, and sorry, I don't mean to hijack here, Darmish, but
all right, carry on.
Not around. That point you made about a club like West Ham kind of being, I don't want to say recalibrate expectations. It's interesting because people have poo-pooed the Europa League and the Conference League. I don't know if you saw the videos a few days ago of Paulo Dybala's unveiling in Rome, 10,000 people basically watching him walk out of a building, the enthusiasm around Mourinho and whatever else. Roma improved under Mourinho in their first season by 1 point and 1 place in the league. They won the Conference League the year before they reached the Europa League semifinals. And yet the fans right now, I mean, Mourinho has the whole city in the palm of his hand. Well, the Roma side of the city in the palm of his hands. The players love him. The fans love him. They're happy. They're excited. Analytics-wise, I might look at this and say, well, hang on a second. Dybala's injured, inconsistent, Matic old, blah, blah, blah. But they don't care. They're having the ride of their lives. And I know it can sound patronizing in some way, but I think the reality of the football that we're in is the imbalance of resources is so big that if you're West Ham, maybe this is what you have to be, enjoy the moment, enjoy the run in the league. Don't beat yourself up because somebody else has twice the wage bill than you do. They will probably finish ahead of you. And don't expect and demand the impossible or the nearly impossible, which is finishing top 4, simply because you expect future. The game has changed. That's just the unpleasant reality of it.
Yeah, just to back that up, Gav, as well. I was very lucky to be at the Conference League final in Albania a couple of months ago, and I was in amongst the Roma fans, and there were old men in Roma shirts crying around me, and singing and listening to them sing a rendition of Grazie Roma. What again at the Dybala unveiling, but in Tirana was pretty damn moving, and it was made pretty clear to me that some people may mock that competition, but clubs like Roma, clubs like West Ham, this is where you can make your memories right now. And I think West Ham did a pretty decent job of realising that last season, and I think they will continue to do that again. So in conjunction with that, maybe their league performance suffers a bit, but I'm not going to hold it against them.
I think if you offered West Ham United the Europa Conference League next season, the phrase "snap your hands off" would probably come to mind. But look, West Ham definitely look like they're going for it. 4 signings in through the door already, and they're not done. But coming up after the break, we're going to be discussing Chelsea and their pursuit of further defensive reinforcements. That's coming next. Stay tuned. Okay, as promised, let's talk Chelsea. Raheem Sterling, of course, through the door. Kalidou Koulibaly through the door as well. But all does not seem right at Stamford Bridge. Their pursuit of further defensive reinforcements has proved problematic. I don't think they're great friends with Barcelona just now. Let's leave it at that. While a 4-0 pre-season defeat to Arsenal also highlighted concerns for them on the pitch. Moves for Nathan Ake, Presnel Kimpembe, and now Jules Koundé fallen flat. Attention now turning to Leicester City's Wesley Fofana, but with that will bring its own issues as well. He's still got 5 years left on his contract, and it would seem Leicester have no intention of selling. Gab, look, I know it's only pre-season, but should Chelsea fans be a little bit concerned just now?
I think you have to be concerned until you figure out what the club, or until the club is able to deliver on the players that Tuchel wants and Tuchel needs. Rudiger and Christensen have left. Thiago Silva is a year older. Koulibaly's not young. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, and Napoli's cutbacks meant that he wasn't going to sign a new deal. He had a year left, and they let him go. I think he's going to help, but you need another player. I think we can take it as read that we'll see a lot of back four simply because it's a question of bodies. I would definitely be a bit concerned when, you have a de facto interim sporting director who, until 6 months ago, had a different job, still does have a different job, right? And Marina moving on and so on. And, I'd be most disappointed actually about the way the Jules Koundé thing went. When you're dealing with intermediaries and agents, it's a murky world, and you need people who are good at delivering at the right price. And in Chelsea's case, those people obviously moved on, and obviously they thought they had something which they don't have. And in some ways, you go back to the drawing board. And Fofana is a tremendous footballer. The way he looked before a serious injury, I thought, this guy's on the way to being top 5 or top 10 in the world. He's played very little, I think, since coming back. Leicester paid a lot of money for him. You'll know the number more than I do. But with that 5-year deal, with the fact that he's still very young, with the fact that Leicester made a major investment on him, he's not going to be cheap. And then you're rolling the dice on somebody who's coming off a major injury and has not proven his fitness.
He's on his way to make. He's on that track, perhaps, but he's not there yet. So you're basically going to end up paying the kind of money that is demanded of a finished product, top tier end piece, for a player who may get there, but actually isn't. And it creates a bit of a disparity. And the sort of disparity, times, that makes me very, very nervous. It's the one I see right now in Liverpool and Darwin Núñez. They've actually moved away from their MO slightly. And rather than pay top prices for clearly some of the best players in their position in the world, they've picked someone who has some work to do and is more of an emerging talent off the back of an amazing season. Gab, the XGO performance was also notable with Darwin. They moved away from their MO there. And if Chelsea were to spend, let's call it 70 million, because that's probably what it's going to take, right? Chelsea in need. Fofana was 30, 35, and he's young and he has 5 years left. 70 million on Fofana off a broken leg with room to grow doesn't quite sit right with me.
The big thing for me is two things. One is the price, because if Fofana comes, if he's just okay, in a couple of years, you can get most of that money back. But the other big question mark is his injury. You looked at his acceleration, the kind of athlete he was before the broken leg and after. It takes time to get back. And that is a big medical question, and that's one that needs to be answered.
Gab, you're talking about the defensive issues that Chelsea have got there. There's also all change up front as well. We touched on it before. Romelu Lukaku, of course, didn't work out, did it for him at Chelsea. He's gone to Inter Milan on loan. Raheem Sterling has come in. It looks like Thomas Tuchel is going for a more fluid front three. I guess a question for both of you. Is this going to make Chelsea a better prospect in the attacking sense next season compared to last season?
Go ahead, Sam.
I don't like this question at all, Dams. I think that playing Sterling or Kai Havertz as the kind of 9 in inverted commas to an extent suits what Tuchel wants to do team-wide better than Lukaku. We've spoken before, Dams, about the disconnect between Lukaku wanting to be involved in the play nice and early and very regularly and having a more direct ball so they can pin a centre-back and roll him, versus Tuchel kind of wanting to take a couple more minutes to build attacks and maybe exert that element of control and play a bit slower. There's a real disconnect between player and manager there. So really what I was hoping for from Chelsea's forwards was a player who can play with a bit more patience, make a few runs that do get ignored, don't worry about it too much, don't have to be constantly involved, but do provide the finishing touch. I think Sterling is a really good fit for this model, if that's what I think Tuchel wants. So I think it will be a success. I think they'll score more goals. You don't just have to look at Sterling's goal record over the last 5 years to ascertain that, but look at the stylistic fit between him and manager. And Havertz blew hot and cold, but he seems to be roughly in line with, I think, what Tuchel wants. So yes, they'll probably score more goals off the back of Lukaku's exit. It's not really a slight on Lukaku. It's more just better transfer planning.
I would agree with that. I can see that. When people bring up the terms fluid front three, I get a little bit nervous, because in the end, you're still managing a squad. And for the fluid front three to work, you either need to have a ton of time on the training pitch, or you need to have the same 3 guys playing all the time. Are those 3 guys going to be Mount, Sterling, and Havertz? Maybe. Great. But if that's the case, what do you do with all the guys who don't play? Pulisic and Ziyech and Werner and Callum Hudson-Odoi. I would have liked to see them keep Armando Broja, personally. And maybe that'll happen. I think it gives you another dimension. I don't know if Tuchel feels pressure to win now or whatever. My concern is also a little bit frankly, in the middle of the park. I don't know, especially in a World Cup year, Conte's injury record has not been good. He just simply hasn't played a lot of games the last couple of years. Jorginho, I'm biased in favor of for obvious reasons, but people seem to get all wound up about him and his defending and blah, 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 and his penalties and whatever. And then you have Kovacic and Loftus-Cheek and another one who's had his injuries. Might they have been better off taking a look there? So I think there's players they need to move out because otherwise the squad doesn't become as manageable. And I think they need, I would have looked for some help in the middle of the park, somebody a little bit younger. Loftus-Cheek, I discovered, has been young for a very, very long time to the point that he's not young anymore, you know.
The Jesse Lingard case, yeah.
Exactly, it's the Jesse Lingard situation, you know. The blink of
young Jesse Lingard, yeah.
So I'm not sure about the squad construction either, actually, and with the change of system. And there's just a lot of questions. I think Tuchel had a tricky time off the pitch as well towards the end of last season. Yeah, I don't know what his mindset's going to be given everything that's changed at the club and what this season's going to look like for Chelsea. And will it be a transition year?
So, Dams, I'm actually going to flip this podcast on its head and I'm going to ask you a question now.
Oh, no.
Because you may be able to answer this better than either of us, to be fair. Is part of the problem here, and Gab has sort of alluded to it there, the squad feels very muddled because there's a lot of players they feel like are either on the verge of leaving or they're trying to get out the door, and that's directly impacting their ability to sign players and mould the squad together ahead of the season. Is part of the problem here that Thomas Tuchel is almost doing like 3 jobs at once because he's kind of helping his own owner, Todd Burley, sign or maybe even just identify players, which is not something you necessarily see top managers do anymore. It feels like a very separate job. Tuchel looks genuinely exhausted, but I think he's pulling overnight shifts as a sporting director.
Yeah, look, you've hit the nail on the head there because he actually admitted to as much during the pre-season tour of the United States. It's not just being a head coach, which is probably all he wants to focus on and all he's been used to in his managerial roles up until now, even at Chelsea last season. But he's having to bridge that gap between that head coach role and trying to identify and bring in players and help the owner to try and sign these players. And you've got a situation now where they were even perhaps had an inkling of trying to get Lewandowski. They thought they were going to get Rafinha. They'd agreed with Jules Koundé, and they've all ended up at Barcelona. So when they didn't get those players in, he's still in that situation where there's a load of players, which you two have touched on, whereby they're not fitting into Thomas Tuchel's plans for next season. So it's not only the difficulty of trying to recruit new players, it's how they're going to streamline that squad as well and get rid of the players that he doesn't want there. And to think that we've got less than 2 weeks to go now, or whenever you listen to this, within 2 weeks, the season's going to start. And Chelsea are still scrambling around trying to bring in players that might not even be their first target, their number one target. They're going down that list now for certain positions. So very, very difficult time. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what Chelsea are going to do next season, particularly because of what's going on around them with the other clubs. Liverpool and City getting their business done very early. Tottenham, we're used to waiting until deadline day before they complete all their signings. Conte and Paratici have said, no, we're doing this early. And they've signed 6 players already. Arsenal, already the biggest spenders in this summer's transfer window, over £120 million spent. They've done their business. United are starting to do their business after a slow start. So I think Chelsea will be looking around and thinking, whereas we were looked at as being the closest challenger potentially to Liverpool and City and maybe having a title challenge, are they now thinking we've just got to make sure we get into the top 4 and guarantee Champions League football for next season? But look, I'm sure Thomas Tuchel will be looking for partnerships all over the pitch, but none will be better than the partnership that we've had on this Transfer Talk podcast. And unfortunately, with a heavy heart, it is time to say farewell to both you, Sam and Gab. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure and an education.
Yeah, thanks very much. And good to go back and forth with you, Gab.
Pleasure, Sam.
Yeah, great having Sam and Gab on. And for all you Sky Sports News viewers of the Transfer Show, Sam Tighe will be making an appearance in the near future. Anyway, coming up after the break, I'll be joined by Sky Sports News editor Alan Myers to discuss all things Everton. Stay tuned. Yeah, welcome back. been a difficult summer if you're an Everton fan, hasn't it? But there could be some light at the end of the tunnel for the manager Frank Lampard. The fullback Ruben Vinagre and Dwight McNeil became the latest additions of the summer, arriving from Sporting Lisbon and Burnley, respectively. And they followed James Tarkowski through the door at Goodison Park. And to discuss this further, I'm delighted to say we are joined on the show by Sky Sports news editor Alan Myers to talk all things Everton. Alan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Darmish, good. Good to be here.
Great to see you, mate. Look, let's start with Dwight McNeil, joined on a 5-year deal. Couple of ways to look at this one. He played all 38 games for Burnley last season, so that's a positive. But they were relegated and he didn't score and he provided 1 assist. Now, look, and I know I've approached that quite negatively, but should Everton fans be worried about that, or is this just the case of a player needing a fresh start?
Well, I was looking at him, and they're the sort of stats that stood out, really. That he didn't sort of contribute a lot, as in sort of goals or assists, but he did play, as you say. He did play 38 games last season. And I think he burst onto the scene, didn't he, in a couple of years ago, 2018-19, I think it was, when he came into the side full time. And I spoke to a lot of people at Burnley a lot of the time at that time, and they were really impressed with him. The fans were delighted with him. But I've spoken to a couple of those fans since that, and since last week, since the news broke that he was coming to Everton. And a good old friend of mine who's a Burnley fan, he tells me, look, we're delighted that you're taking him because he's done nothing for 2 seasons. I was quite surprised at that. I was taken aback at that, really. But you've got to look at what's been happening at Burnley, and that affects players, I think, in many ways. It's difficult when you're being relegated and the struggles that they've had, and they've not exactly been, flying at the top of the league at any time in those last couple of years. So you can sort of make allowances to a point. There is a little bit of concern, I think, amongst the Everton fans about buying players who've been relegated because they've done it before and it hasn't worked out. So I think there is that concern. But he does represent, I think what's interesting here is the type of player that Frank Lampard and Kevin Feldwall have been looking at. And, okay, let's take Tarkowski out of the equation because that doesn't fit. But they're looking for young players who are, and I've listened to McNeil in his interview when he joined Everton, and he mentioned the word hungry on a couple of occasions. And I think that's where the recruitment, we all know about the recruitment in the past few years at Everton, and I think that's what fans want to see a change in, is that not players who are coming for a year, to sort of have their last swan song or maybe for the money, or, they're looking for players who are young, who are hungry, and as you said, sort of alluded to in your intro there, players who maybe have a point to prove.
What kind of budget, though, are Everton looking at in this transfer window? And much has been made of the finances at the football club. They've obviously got around £60 million for Richarlison. They've spent, we think, around 15 to 20 million on Dwight McNeil. Tarkowski was a free transfer. Vinagre is a loan. So how much are we looking at with regard to Frank Lampard and how much he can spend?
Well, that's the $6 million question, and let's hope it's not $6 million. But it is the big question, because I don't think really anybody knows. Maybe apart from maybe 2 people at the top of the club, there are they're well documented issues at Everton financially. They're at the line, if not stepped over it once or twice. With regards to P&S, They've got to, we know that, they've had to work with the Premier League in the last few years when they're buying players and selling players. The suggestion was that Richarlison went to satisfy the P&S situation. So you have to, there's a bit of, who would have thought 5-6 years ago when Bashiri walked into this club, I certainly know Evertonian would, but who would have thought that we would be in a situation where Everton are now having to watch every penny and sell their best players to, it was unthinkable 5-6 years ago. Every Evertonian, including myself, thought they were on their way to Champions League every year, to spending lots of money. And that hasn't happened. It's been mismanaged as far as recruitment is being concerned. But again, the swap over of managers, the turnaround of managers hasn't helped, because now you've got a squad, and it shows, of 5-6 managers players. You know, there were still players from the David Moyes era in Rafa Benitez's side and in Frank Lampard's side. And that can't be good in any way, shape or form. So what money is coming back into the club? What I found interesting is when Bill Kenwright was quoted after selling Richarlison, he mentioned the words wriggle room. It gives Frank Lampard some wriggle room. That's not, to me, it doesn't tell me that he's going to splash the cash. It tells me that, you know, things are still tight, but it might give them a little bit of leeway. And by all accounts, what Everton are trying to do at the moment is structure deals, which is like the Cornet deal. You know, that's why that hasn't happened, is because they want to structure it in a certain way. Burnley, of course, are on the other side of things, and they want to structure it so they get the money now. You know, so it's a difficult one. I'm not sure what that figure is that Everton have got, but I think they're trying their best to get. Bashiri said, you know, judge me at the end of the transfer window, and I can tell you and promise you, people will judge him at the end of the transfer window.
Yes, you mentioned Maxwell Cornet there as one of the targets for Everton. What other areas are they looking to strengthen in?
Well, who Burnley else? Who else is at Burnley? I don't know. But, you know, I mean, I heard somebody joke last night saying that the way Everton have changed managers over the last year, you know, they're getting the place familiar for when Sean Dyche arrives. But anyway, let's not joke about those things. But no, I think they need badly a central midfielder. You know, the talk is that Gomez is going to go to somewhere in Portugal. But they're looking for 15 to 20 million pounds for him. I'm not sure they'll get that. But if he goes, you know, but they desperately need somebody in that central midfield. I mean, you know, the sort of left back, you know, Vinagre, I'm not so sure that was you know, although I think it looks like Niels Nkunku will go out on loan again. Some thought he would be Mikalenko's backup. But I think they desperately need a central midfielder. And I think they need a striker because, you know, an out-and-out striker, because at this moment in time, you're looking at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, unless Dele Alli moves into that position, which there is some sort of talk that might happen.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be a very, very eventful last few weeks of this transfer window for Everton, one way or another. Alan Myers, thank you very much indeed for your time. You're always welcome.
My pleasure.
Yeah, great having Alan on. And look, we've reached the end of this latest edition of the Transfer Talk podcast. Thanks once again to Alan Myers, to Sam Tighe, and of course to Gabriele Marcotti. And don't worry, Pete Greaves will be back for the next episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. We'll see you then. And that's for sure.
Finished now, something. I forgot about it. Oh my God. Okay, I was searching in my computer and I saw something incredible, right? But will not believe what I got to say. I haven't done my research or whatever the words are. But anyway, there's this Chilean player, all right, that I'm crying about, and you're going to say, ha 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 ha. You're going to laugh, and you're gonna keep laughing. And you're going to do this for the rest of your life, and you're going to say, ha, 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 ha. Who cares what you say? So you're going to tell me, you don't worry about me, you don't care about me, you don't know me, you don't see me, worry about... Look, I'm in the channel, intermixhector, right? And I'd like to tell you something. As Chilean, for the God's sake, you made it like this, Okay, let's talk about Alex Sanchez, Arturo Vidal, Arangis, who plays for I don't know, in Germany somewhere. Now we got a new one, Marcelino Muñez, which now he says here 13 minutes 54 seconds, and now welcome to Norwich City. Well, Norwich, I don't know if English Premier League, but it's in England. I can tell you now. You're going to laugh now. Now start laughing and stop saying whatever you want to me, because I'm going to tell you something that you disagree with me, and you're going to say ha 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 ha. You're going to laugh at me. Okay, listen what I got to tell. When I turn on my my computer and I start looking for Chile because I'm speaking in English. I live in Australia and all this. I'm gonna say to my brother or someone else, hey, look at this. Marcelino Muñez, welcome to Norwich. A new Chilean player from Universidad Católica now is playing in Norwich, right? And everybody else going, oh yeah, you're gonna watch it? You're gonna go and see it? Huh? What? How? Now you're addicted to Norwich, Hector. Huh? You're Chilean, so you gotta follow your passion now. You see, Marco Roja, he was playing for Melbourne Victory in Australia. Now he plays in Colo Colo. You've been telling me this, Hector. Now you're going to follow Colo Colo in Chile. Huh? What? How? Where? You see, you mentioned these names. Alex Sanchez, Inter Milan, Italy. Alex Sanchez is getting old, and he won't perform as good as he used to. El Niño Maravilla, nothing like that. Now we got new ones, and they're better and faster. Not this mucking around. They say him and him in Uruguay or him in Argentina, Hector, him in all that. You're going to end up watching all these games, and then they're going to say, who do you follow? Huh? Who you really follow? Huh? I'm gonna have to measure this up, and I have to do some recording or something, or another one where I have to tell you who I go for. I have to pick someone that hasn't gone over, blah, 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 and you're going to say, mate, just go for Liverpool, will you? What? No. Go for PSG. Okay, it's not like that to me. Okay, I live in Australia. I have to go for Melbourne Victory, right? Because that's where the Chilean guy was. You're an idiot, Hector. Why don't you, if you live in New South Wales in Australia, why don't you go for Sydney FC, Sydney Football Club? Well, one of the teams in Sydney, anyway. Huh? So I have to go from my own town. So I have to pick one from Sydney. And then in Chile, I have to go closer to my town and blah, 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 where I was born and blah, blah, blah. Or a team that is mediocre, comes third all the time, something like that. That's who I'm going for, all right? None of these Liverpool, PSG. I like Japan. I don't know why. I like Japan. So maybe Japan in your pants, man. Look, my passion is in South Pacific, Australia, Chile, America, Mexico, Japan. That's my passion. You understand? I understand the Africans that get taken a lot to Europe, but Africa is a nation where there should be more countries from Africa, more countries from Asia, more countries from the Pacific, South Pacific Islanders, and South and Central America more in the World Cup, because it's just getting ridiculous that maybe 50 teams, I don't know how many, maybe more teams in the World Cup, and maybe that will make me happy anyway. But anyway, to understand that Europeans are taking all the players from around the world to Europe because it's a thing now, and I have to now watch Norwich when I turn my computer on. I have to Google Norwich, see if the player won or whoever it is doing well on the news about Chile. It's funny, man. It's really funny. Really funny. I turn on the TV. My friend is here. He's from London. His name is Sean. My other friend, he's Mexican, American, whatever he is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They say to me, we do not understand your lingo. You have to explain to us because we are watching something in Spanish. So if you're going to put something in Spanish, you got to explain it to us. What are you watching and how we can go along with it? And I said, no, look, they subtitles. Lucky they subtitles, mate. It's funny, eh? And I put on the subtitles. You know what I mean? It's like, but sometimes the subtitles not there, so I have to imitate, tell them what is going on, man. really, really funny and everything. I'm on the phone. People are in front of me say, two ladies, two men, they're having a drink or something and some food in their hands or something. I don't know. And I'm there, my mom's ring or someone. Yeah, I'm going, hola, ¿cómo está? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Muy bueno, sí, viva la vida, va adelante. Whatever. The people in front, who was that? You speak very radical Spanish. Your Spanish is... I said, yeah, I forgot the Spanish. My Spanish is horrible. I do not know. I have this idea that because a man is in a horse, I'm going to go caballero, right? And I said, but caballo is horse, caballero is like a gentleman, like a knight. Well, anyway, I don't know much, and so don't ask me. I'm lost to what I'm saying, but I want more. I want better, faster, quicker. I want... If money is the problem, no worries. You will understand. I will learn to see many English players win the Euro Cup and beat everyone else in Europe. Well, that's fantastic. I will say that. I will say Liverpool. Everybody was telling me, go for Liverpool. It's red like Chile. And I said, but in Manchester, no, don't worry. Believe in your heart. It's one of the teams, when you go down the pub or your friend take you to a dinner where you can bet in this club, you can put maybe say Liverpool versus Chelsea there. Make sure you know what you see. Chelsea beat Liverpool. I'm going, what are you on about? I'm gonna do that, right? Get it out. Slap. The guy is saying, no, but I'm doing it for you. We'll make sure that Liverpool beats Chelsea. I went, mate, you're nuts. Oh, can I put it on a Spanish? We'll have a look when we get there. We'll see Australia or any sport from Chile or South America, Canada. We like this, you know. Maybe you think it's weird, but we like to make sure you're safe and you're coming with us on the bus, or if my friend brother landing in his car, we can go in the car, we can go on the bus, we can go however you want it. We can even ride the bike to the club, to the pub, to the wherever it is, and we can go there every Saturday. And why do we go there? Because it's beautiful. That you have to go through there, past the ocean area, up to the thing, and it's good. And everyone likes it, right? It looks fantastic. I don't know what else you're gonna say. If you don't like it, well, too bad. We watch soccer in the big big TV. You understand? Doesn't matter. Ole, ola, you don't know what I mean. Once I explore the thing, like one day when I have time or something, I forget many things. See, Marcelino Munez, Norwich City, sign up Chile International for undisclosure fee. Right. Another thing, Chile. You want to know about Chile? Chile need a kick in the ass, a big kick in the ass. Put the key to the metal. Chile needs to be more forward, to understand how to be creative on making the goals. Players need to talk to one another, understanding their family. They're Chilean, they play in the national team, they have to win games when they do not lose, who don't want to lose, or pretend they got the power and they lose, like against Uruguay or Ecuador or Peru. Oh wow, this is gone for long, eh? It's gone over an hour, man. It's gone over an hour, bro. Anyway, if Chile have the power to beat teams that are supposed to win, because see, I should have something prepared. When I have something prepared, it's good. You understand? I will talk about that. I will do that. And we'll do that. We'll talk about it. Copa America, I remember Copa America. Chile won 2015, 2016. But why haven't they performed? They have. Okay, it's just that they got the players in there and the amount they have to have, right? The others did not go in there, did not make it to the national team. So some Mexican, Chileans, or whatever. Australia's got the same problem. They pick the right players. Yes, they do. They pick the right players, but there's others who could have been in the bench. The one on the bench are the ones that there could be others. So that one in the bench could be another one that was way better. You know what I mean? But anyway, these players, they now are getting too old. They don't seem to perform. The charisma, the football, the Chilean, it doesn't work now, man. It's just shit, fucked, no good, man. Very bad Chilean football. But Australia the same. They still make the World Cup or something, but they don't. This time they didn't make it. Australia made it, Chile didn't. That's right. If I have it prepared, and what it is, and I'll talk about it to the facts, to world record, award winning. I'll have it prepared one day. I don't know when, next week. I'm spun out, and we can talk about it in English, because if I talk in Spanish, you wouldn't understand. One day I'll do one in English and Spanish. Anyway, like Wales made it to the World Cup. I remember the English soccer team, the Liverpool and others are powerful. PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Udinese. I don't know any others. Well, anyway, Chile has a problem with the coach. The coach very not Chilean. I don't know what to go there. I can't explain it. My mother has told me, they keep buying these other ones from Paraguay, Argentina, Colombia, and players come from England Chilean, or Australian Chilean, or New Zealand Chilean, Canadian Chilean, American. What the hell? Why don't they have a mix with the black people? Some black people are good, like the guy, what's his name? Fernandez, whatever he was black. No one's racist. What's this shit, man? Let's get it together, plan it out, boom, boom, boom. And love one another and play faster, quick, and score those goals that you need to. Not scoring the goal. That was it. Chile could have beat China, whoever it was, South Korea, North Korea. We would have beaten, but we couldn't. We just didn't have the imagination, and we didn't have the kick, didn't have the man up, didn't fuck up, didn't do it, man. I'm sorry, bad Chile. Start scoring, start winning, and start making it. You know, Speedy Gonzalez, it's going to have names. It's Niño Maravilla. All right, Niño Maravilla, Alex Sanchez. Oh, my God, now. And Niño Maravilla is finished now. But he can still have, if it's now, 2022, Alex Sanchez now should have 3 more years, less or more. No more. 3 more years, that's it. He's finished. In 3 more years, he's finished now. Arturo Vidal, the same, 3 more years, he might be finished. No more. It's sad. We gotta prove to the world that we can fuck it up. Now perform, transform, score those goals, go forward, surprise other teams, make the good out of it, play good football, Chile. The same with Australia. Socceroos, the ladies and the men in Australia, all having problems, not winning games. Australian Matildas, they are getting beaten, and it's disgusting, very bad. The family, Australia, Aussie, oi, okay, I must go now or something. Look, it's gone for long, amigo. Huh? I'm sorry. Maybe you tell me, I tell you, I don't know. I love you too. Okay, I must go. Fucking hell, man, it's gone for long. Oh, wow, I have to charge the fine or something. Okay, yes, European, Australia, all the way around, whatever you want. The outlook of the future of the mountains and things, the weather and all this, we have to clean up there. Whatever you say, you tell me. Chile and Australia, very good, love you, and I must go now, man. I don't know, it's too far now. I have to do my thing, clean up the mess. Okay, intermixhector, goodbye. YouTube, subscribe, intermixhector. I love you. Viva la raza. Anyway, England, whatever. I love you. I love you, Poland. I love you, Ukrainian. I love you, Russia. I love you, Sweden. I love you. Anyway, intermixhector on YouTube. Subscribe. I love you. Thing is recording. Oh, me, you, wah, yeah, oh, wah, la, 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 la.